Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to what? Thinking. It's a good thing about gardening. It gives you time to think. Thinking about something that, it's comments and questions that I get, and I get these all the time ever since I've had the channel, but there has been a definite uptick, and it's because of how things are going on in the world. And it's usually either a question, a comment, or some kind of derogatory accusation that, how do we start a revolution? What are you doing to start it? What are you doing out in the streets? You're not out there doing anything. Well, that's the derogatory. And then there's the, well, how do we start it? How do we fight back? How do we, where do we start? And well, I want to get into that because I have some opinions on this, and it's probably not going to make most of you too happy. Throat's a little dry out here. My opinion, and it's just that, is that most of you, most of us, we're not ready. We're not ready to revolt. We're not ready for 1776 2.0. Just not. And while that may offend some people, and many of you may argue back with me, if you just listen for a few minutes, I might be able to explain why, and why I am such a huge advocate for being as self-sufficient as possible. Even if you're not living it on your day-to-day life, you need to at least understand how to do it. You may have a washing machine and a dryer, but do you have the capability of washing your clothes all on their own? You may still go to the grocery store and buy some of your food, but are you capable of producing your own food and existing on only what you can eat, or what you can produce? I advocate that very strongly. And community, tribe, groups, small groups of people that can depend on each other. And I will get into a real big reason as to why I feel that way. For many years now, I'm 45 years old, and for pretty much my whole life, I have heard of all these people that are, we need to fight back. We have X a million amount of gun owners in America, and we need to fight back, and we need to tell this government and tell them what's what. Well, we probably should have done that a long time ago, because now it's too late not to do it, but it's too late to do it in the old-fashioned way, because we're up against something way bigger than just an army, a standing army. We're up against the companies, we're up against the technology, we're up against all of it. And if you are not prepared, if you are not self-sufficient, if you are not capable and ready to be basically homeless, living with nothing, having nothing, and having the skills and the knowledge to live with nothing, then you're not ready. Because the moment that folks start revolting, I have a pretty strong feeling that they're going to take everything away from you. They control it all. That's the danger of dependency. That has been preached against for probably a century now by many people, that this constant, ever-growing dependency on government is just making it that much more difficult each time for us to fight against said government. Because if our existence, if our livelihood, if the very basics for survival, if we're dependent upon the government to have those things, then it's going to make it really difficult to fight against it, because they can just take all that away. They can sanction us, and that's about the nicest word that I could come up with, the things that we need to survive. I mean, look what they have done to countries like Russia. And Russia is very self-sufficient. That's how Russia is able to actually survive through all these sanctions. If those same level of sanctions were put on the United States by the rest of the world, it would probably be a very big, different story, because I don't believe America is nearly as self-sufficient as it once were. You and I have to be self-sufficient if we're going to withstand all of this, if we're going to fight back against the New World Order, regardless of what the word fight means to you, whether it's ideologically fighting, fighting as in not partaking in it, or fighting as in a physical form, regardless of what that means. You and I have to be as self-sufficient as possible, because if we are still dependent upon the system, well, then it's going to be a very short fight. You know, for those of you that's idealized going out in the streets fully armed with all of your high-speed gear, fighting against, you know, the enemy. If you think that you're just going to get done that day and come back home to a nice home-cooked meal and watch some TV in your air conditioning and go to bed at night and get up again the next day and do it, well, you're wrong, because while you're off doing your revolting in the streets against the government or whoever, they're probably going to come and burn your home to the ground, burn your farm to the ground, everything that you have in it, maybe even your wife and your children, all the guns and the ammo that you're so proud that you have, that you could withstand a long fight, would all be gone, because you can't carry that around with you. And unless you plan on just staying put in your home and holding that ground, well, you're not really revolting very much by doing that. So it's really a catch-22. You're either going to have to plan on bugging in, or you're going to be a nomad being hunted down for the rest of your life, because this idea of being able to go and fight and then come back to your home and do some gardening and have a cooked meal and with the electricity on and the water running is just not going to happen. They control all that. And so I think a lot of people haven't thought about that. They haven't thought about what it would really look like, how much that they could take away from you. I mean, just look at the truckers up in Canada a year or so ago, where they were seizing their bank accounts, shutting it down, seizing their vehicles. They were taking everything from them. And a lot of people lost. Some of them got it back, but not everybody. And that's just really a drop in the bucket. Look at the January 6 people. Look at what they've lost. And there's many others. I mean, you could go all the way back to Ruby Ridge in Waco and get a good idea of what our government is capable of to people that would, you know, stand up against them. And I'm certainly in no way advocating that people don't stand up against them. But what I'm saying is that if there's ever a thought in your mind that you might do that, or that it may come to that point, that whether it's government or, you know, bad people or whoever that you're going to stand up against, you better be as self-sufficient as possible, because it's going to be way different than just standing out there on the street corner, standing your ground for a few hours and then going back home. Our founding fathers, many of them, they lost just about everything. I have a little spider crawling up my leg. Hold on a second. There we go. Our founding fathers, they lost so much. Their farms, many of them were burned to the ground. Many of their children and their wives, they lost. Many of them, it lost their fortunes. And many of the colonists that fought, not just the actual leaders of the revolution, but the many of the colonists, they lost a lot. As the British was going through, they would burn farms to the ground. They would absolutely murder people that were standing against the British crown. That kind of stuff would happen again. And I don't think that Americans have really wrapped their heads around what it would look like to actually fight back. And I want to make it very clear that in no way am I saying that we shouldn't. I'm not advocating that we not fight back. I'm not advocating that we not stand our ground. I'm saying that you better be really prepared to take care of yourself and to stand your ground, because when that time comes, and it's very possible that it will come, they will have the ability to take everything from you. Where a community comes in is, you know, for instance, myself, my family here, who's going to take care of them? Who's going to provide for them? Who's going to protect them if I have to go off and protect and defend our liberties? Who's going to? That's where a community comes in. Being self-sufficient, I've already explained that, because they could cut you off. And then they could remove you from your land. They could burn it to the ground. They could blow it up. There's all kinds of possibilities that could happen. And for those of you that push that narrative, you need to be thinking about it. You're not necessarily wrong in your thinking, but you need to be thinking and planning, because, folks, when it gets to that point, if you're not really prepared, it's going to get bad. I mean, if you think that, again, that you're going to get done at the end of the day and come home and watch some football, cool off in your home and take a hot shower and put some clean clothes on and go back out and do it again and take all of your supplies and resupply yourself, I'm afraid you might be mistaken, because this government, not just here in the United States, but globally, has proven over and over what they're really capable of. And honestly, I think that there's no limitations to what they're capable of. So for those of you that consider yourselves patriots and warriors of liberty, you also better be gardeners too. And you better be preppers, and you better be self-sufficient, and you better have your community. Because if you stand up and start a revolution again this time, it may be a very, very short-lived revolution. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order, prepare, and get this kind of stuff done. Because times are changing, and we have, I'm sure over the next 6 to 12 months, things are going to be so drastically different. So you better be getting ready. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Throughout all history, precious metals have been the one solid asset that has held their value through banking failures, hyperinflation, and financial collapses. Visit the link below to moneymetals.com to find a wide variety of silver and gold to secure your wealth with real money. When I purchase online, I choose moneymetals.com because of their fast and secure service and competitive pricing on a wide variety of precious metals. moneymetals.com in the link below.